I'm good. Life is good.
That's awesome. I love to hear it.
Yeah. Thanks for taking the time to do this, man. I know you were out in the mountains playing around today. What have you been up to?
We climbed Keweenaw this morning, me, Z, and another buddy, Matt. And then yesterday we climbed the Grand. The day before that, another pretty big run. So just kind of playing around in the Tetons for a few days.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Where are you living these days?
I'm still in Breckenridge home base, but
Okay.
I've been kind of just all over the place for summer months. I've been in Salt Lake probably at least 3 weeks out of the summer so far.
For sure.
So I'm based in Breck still, but kind of just bouncing.
Okay. Yeah, I saw you were all over the place. I didn't know if you moved.
Nope, no moving yet. Just when I'm in my truck, I guess I'm moving technically, but
For sure. Yeah. Well,
mountains.
cool, man. How's the summer going, brother?
Going great, man. Gotten a couple good projects put in the works, and then first project of the summer that, I guess I've put up 2 FKTs. Technically established one on the double whirl. If that's like a new route, I guess, for somebody that wants to go do it a lot faster than me. But got one awesome FKT up in Idaho at the beginning of summer. A lot of snow travel on that one, which is sick. Nice. And then I went for another one over in Summit County Fairplay area. Got shut down about 3/4 of the way through due to bonking really hard and not being able to outrun the storms. So learned a lot of lessons during that, and then applied those lessons in the double whirl and, put those lessons to life. And so now I know what to do better and, differently when nice. I do it again, hopefully in the next 2 weeks.
Sweet. Well, you're learning from your mistakes, which is a big part of this whole journey. I know, man.
Yeah.
And the double whirl, that sounds freaking crazy. I mean, from what I understand, a single is a huge endeavor. I mean, it's quote unquote only 30 miles, right? But it's
like 34, 36, depending on which way you go, kind of.
Okay. And is it shaped like a horseshoe or is it a full loop?
Yeah, it's a horseshoe.
Okay.
And the so trails are probably like 1.5 miles or 2 apart from each other.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's easy for crew, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, well, I want to hear about it, dude. And it sounds like you're digging into the FKTs. Are you leaning more towards FKTs over races, or how are you sitting?
Yeah, man, racing's kind of not my thing right now. Like, I'm running the Circuit Series races because they're fun. The community's great. I really enjoy being around the people out there, and like a quick, fast 6 to 7 mile run with 3K verts, always a good time, especially when I can go fast. But really, haven't really been training or focused on those, kind of just doing those as free time, and then doing these bigger missions out in the mountains like FKTs and stuff like that as pretty much my thing now. I'm really diving into like the big mountain link ups and stuff like that, the longer distance, high elevation, big vert, big miles. That's kind of been my jam.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I just talked with Travis Soares yesterday, I believe. That podcast just came out today. And he it sounds like you and him both have been talking with Jason Hardrath, and Jason has been encouraging both of you guys to do these big link ups and these big FKTs. And as I mentioned on that podcast, he's like the king of FKTs. He's got over 100 of them. And it's just so cool that he sees you guys and sees what you're up to, and then reaches out and encourages you guys to go do your thing. And he'll come up with ideas and strategize and plans. And to me, that's Jason's just really cool. Man.
He's a super cool dude. I was super stoked to meet him during the double whirl adventure. We did our first whirl together, as I'm sure you've seen or read about. But yeah, he's awesome, man. He's inspired a lot of stoke in both me, Travis, Nathan, and just other people in the community. Travis and Nathan, Nathan did the SDS list right before Travis.
Yep.
He did it in 138 or something like that. And then Travis came down, did it in 117?
Yeah, 114, I think.
114?
Something like that.
Ridiculous. So yeah, Jason's definitely been like a mentor backbone to a lot of our projects and support style. So he's played big parts in the way we're transforming in the mountains.
Yeah. So I've done a lot of ultras. I've never really been too into the FKT world, but like, explain to me what the biggest differences are. Like, I mean, obviously if you sign up for a race, you've got a date on the calendar, no matter what the weather is, that's the date you're doing it. And you train and you build up and you're looking to peak for race day. Are FKTs similar? Are you setting a date on the calendar? Or are you waiting for a weather window? And what's your training look like?
Yeah, man. So like for the specific FKTs I'm doing and like these other guys are doing in the big mountains and big mountain link ups, it's kind of just going out and playing in mountains and just getting good at moving through the mountains, whether it's a small day, big day, and then adding them together and eventually getting ready for the game day. It's different from race style because race style, most races have tons of support. You got people that can come in anywhere and everywhere. There's obviously a finish line, it's super, I don't know the word for it, but it's a different like vibe community. And so like when you come to the FKT world, on my double WURL, we had an incredible amount of support, which I'll talk about here later on. But like for certain FKTs, like if you're going unsupported, you're carrying all your stuff by yourself, no matter how long it is. Like for my Mosquito 10 mile, the one I failed on that I'm going back to, that's a 42 mile, 20K, 35 peaks. I'm carrying everything by myself. I'm not going out stashing stuff. I'm carrying it all. I really had to dig into my mental space instead of feeding off of other people's energy. And so that's a different aspect to like the whole FKT world is, how to dig out of the pain cave. And like when you're in the dead zone, how do you still bring light and life to what you're doing? And that's kind of like some of the mental barriers you get to work with. In these big ultra races, it's a lot of similar stuff, obviously, but I feel like I haven't done any real ultras, so I can't really speak on it, but I feel like, with the community around you and like the aid stations and so the variety of things that people can offer to you on trail and stuff, it's just like a different aspect of being able to feed off the energy, and that's huge, whether you're, doing an FAT or a race. But, like the unsupported style, it's typically you, yourself, and I, and like, got to figure it out,
So what kind of stuff are you carrying with you? Because I mean, you're not sleeping on the WURL adventure. You're going as hard as, it sounds like you took some naps, but you're going as hard as you can, as fast as you can. So I imagine you're trying to travel light. I always ask, like, do you have any luxury items in your pack, or is it just stripped down to the bare essentials?
So the way we went about the double WURL was fully supported. There's like 4 different spots on each WURL that you can come in and people can, support, pace, aid, whatever it may be. So we traveled really light. I think the most water I ever carried at a time was like maybe 2 liters on some of the longer sections. And then like during some of the easier stuff, when I knew we wouldn't have, like we would be at the next cache quicker than not, I'd carry 1 liter, or I knew there'd be a stream coming down Bells and like we could fill back up down there, something like that, And so we traveled really light. I mean, I probably carried like 1,000 calories on me, maybe from each station to the next, if that, a set of poles. And that's really about it. I mean, I had a wind layers in case at night. Obviously, we had headlamps, and then I brought a really light puffy just in case I got cold, which after those short naps, it would get chilly. So I'd walk with the puffy on for maybe 10 minutes just to warm up, take it off, put it back in the bag and keep going. But no, nothing really like super luxurious. I mean, at the trailhead for the first roll, I had all my normal stuff, like a Theragun, foam roller, chargers and all that good stuff to get all my stuff reorganized for the second one. We had charging blocks in most of the caches along the way, just in case things died, which they did. But yeah, I mean, nothing too luxurious. Like, our favorite candies, our favorite snacks, just some burritos that we enjoy eating, and maybe a Coke or 2 here and during each WURL, stuff like that.
Okay. What is this like in terms of difficulty for someone like you? Like, I mean, you did last time I talked to you, you've been on the show once before. You did the Vert challenge, and you just come fresh off that, which was something insane. Wasn't it like 400,000 vertical feet or something crazy?
Yeah, 400K in a month,
dude. Yeah, which to me is unfathomable. But like this is a 60-hour push where you're going pretty much all at once with just a couple of short naps.
Yeah.
In terms of like difficulty, where does this sit for you?
It's a weird question to ask, and my answers have been kind of similar to everybody that's asked it. It took me a little bit to figure it out, like what the answer is for that. But if I'm being honest, it was not that difficult for me, which is weird because, I've always known that like these big pushes in the mountains is what I'm like here for, what I want to do. And so when I finally got to put this to the test and like realize these things during the WURL, the double WURL, I really got to learn these things about myself. Yeah, there's a bunch of hardships I got to go through during the double WURL. And those things, like the way I would say it to somebody is like when your passion is so deep for the things you love to do and like what you want to do, and you really enjoy being there, even if you are suffering, it's still easy. Like the hard things, like the sleep deprivation or not being able to eat as much or whatever it may be, are just obstacles you learn how to get around, and you really want to learn how to get around them so you can do them better in the future. So like difficulty level, it's weird. Like the 400K thing was a completely different thing. I battled tons of body problems and injuries and stuff like that.
Yeah.
This one I didn't really have never really pain caved, I should say. Like my feet after midway through the second WURL, my feet were so beat. They were so tender. Like every step hurt real bad. And it honestly was just annoying. But it's like, it never triggered anything to my head. Like, oh man, I'm just going to drop out at Cardiff Pass, or maybe if I just get to this peak, I can drop off. It's like, there was never a point during the double WURL where I thought I'm not going to keep going. I really wanted to be there, and I really enjoyed being there in the moment. It was a beautiful suffer. Definitely suffered, but it was beautiful, and I enjoyed it every step of the way.
That's pretty interesting, man. That you can go for 60 hours and consider this not really
67.
all that bad. 67 hours. Okay. Yeah. And consider it, well, it's not that bad. Not the hardest thing I've ever done. That's pretty crazy, man.
And it's weird. Like I would say it probably is the hardest thing I've ever done, but it was just a different kind of hard. Like I said, the October hard was a completely different animal. It was much more physical.
Yeah.
And so like this was the hardest push and hardest effort I've ever done. But like I said, with the passion being so deep, all those hardships, you just learn how to maneuver. And in the end, it turns into like something easy.
For sure.
In a sense. Like obviously it's not easy just to go out and do, but when you really enjoy it,
Yeah. I mean, I got you. And when you stack it up against a 400K in a month effort where you were injured and battling like, I can't remember, back problems, knee problems, all kinds of stuff popping up for you, and you were just suffering. It sounded like almost the whole time.
Pretty much.
I get it.
Yeah. The whole shebang. It was exciting.
So how did you settle on the WURL? How did you decide that this is the project that you wanted to go for?
Dude, that's a good story.
Let's hear it. I love good stories.
Jason was was watching my Instagram stories, Jason Hardrath, and he saw that I was playing around the Wasatch maybe like 2 months ago now, something like that. And he was like, yo man, I had this idea of doing the first WURL out and back. And I was like, dude, no shit. I was just talking to buddies I was on a peak with today about like how crazy would it be if someone did a WURL out and back. Maybe I'll do it one of these days.
Really?
And he was like, well, I mean, that's it. We got to do it together. We were like, yeah, I guess we're doing it together. Let's like figure out what days we're open and let's meet up there and do it. Let's just send it,
Yeah.
That's kind of how it came to light. Like I never really, Jason's kind of had the idea for some time, I think is what it sounds like, or sounded like. I just kind of thought about it because like, yeah, a single WURL is huge and super cool. But for my style, I don't really like doing the same thing as other people, especially when I know I'm not going to be able to break the FKT on the single WURL, which is ridiculously fast.
Really?
Duray's time is like 14:50 or maybe less than that. I forget the exact number, something ridiculous. Wow. So it's like when we can come up with like a massive adventure like this, it's like, yeah, let's do it, man. And so, yeah, we just kind of connected over the topic, and sure enough, we met out there, 3 weeks ago now, and gave it a go. Nice. Gave it a whirl.
Gave it a whirl. Had you ever done a single push?
Nope. The only pieces of the WURL I've done before we did that was Superior, Monte Cristo, which like between Monte Cristo and Superior, there's nothing crazy. Like that's none of the technical stuff. And then Superior all the way past, like, I think it's Honeycomb Cliffs. And so like I've done that section and that's all like really non-technical. And then I stood on White Baldy one time, like 3 weeks before the WURL, not knowing I was doing the double WURL, but like 3 weeks beforehand, I stood up there and we didn't really do the route of the WURL. We went up a different ridge, the North Ridge, I guess. And yeah, so like honestly, never really. And besides like the Cirque Series snowbird race where you run to the top of what is it, Baldy, something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, like I never really stood on any of the technical pieces like the Cottonwood Traverse or Devil's Castle or what do you call it, Bighorn, Lone Peak, that kind of stuff, where the kind of the cruxy pieces are of the WURL. So yeah, we kind of just went out and did it.
Got it.
And Jason had never stood on a mountain in the Wasatch to begin with.
Oh, wow.
Until we started walking up together.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Well, and you got the first lap done in what was it, like 20 or was it 24 or 30 hours or something like that?
I wish it was 24. It was 32.
32. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's pretty impressive for on-sighting it. If you've never done it before, you didn't know the route. I'm guessing you're just following a Gaia GPS or
pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty much what we did for about 2/3, maybe 3/4 of the first WURL. And then we had Anna de Monte pop in and she kind of paced us through Pfeiffer Horn all the way to the finish.
Okay.
Yeah, I think our first one was like right around 32 hours. You know, Jason had just gotten off of a massive effort, which I'm sure you've heard about, his Norman's 13 FKT and the human powered California 14ers. That was probably, I think, 13 days before we started the WURL. Wow. And so he was pretty beat. And we realized that about halfway through the first WURL. I was moving and cruising and like felt awesome. And so, you know, it was a little slower pace than I was used to, but there's nothing wrong with that. You know, we had our conversation about how we're doing this as a team. And so, yeah, like I'm cool to do it as a team, even though we did have storms to beat like 3 days later. So yeah, 32 hours. I think we could have probably, you know, if you would have been fresh, we could have probably knocked off a solid handful of hours. And if we would have learned the route, could have knocked off another hour or two at least.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah,
you know,
totally. Well, it sounds like your decision to do this was sort of last minute, like just a few weeks before. I mean, that's pretty crazy. So you must have been fit if you just decided 3 weeks before we're going to go for this big 67-hour push. I mean, that's pretty monster.
Yeah, definitely been getting after it in the mountains all summer, you know, and like I had that Mosquito 10-mile attempt where I got to about 32 miles, 15K a few weeks beforehand, like maybe 3 weeks prior. Okay. And so like I had that pretty big push under my belt and a few other like decent pushes from the summer. So, you know, I felt pretty ready for it. You know, going into it, I knew this was going to be like my biggest effort times 2.5 or something like that. And so I was pretty stoked to see what was going to happen. And, you know, our idea was to keep an aerobic pace. Like we weren't huffing and puffing a red line, and we were just keeping it nice and cruise control pretty much the entire way.
Okay. And you're a bigger guy, right? In your pictures, you look a little bit bigger.
Yeah, I'm about 165.
Oh, that's pretty light. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. You know, I when I played football and going to the Navy, I was around 185, a little more stout. But once I've transitioned into the mountains, it's kind of all slimmed down to like an athletic build for mountain running. You know, when I'm at these Cirque Series races or any of these other places, most people are like 20 pounds lighter than me still, but it is what it is.
Are you lifting in your spare time too, or not really?
No, I have not really picked up any weights besides some isometric holds with like kettlebells and stuff like that with what my coach, you know, do you know Zahan Villamoria?
I don't believe so.
You should look him up. He's a badass dude over here in the Tetons. He's kind of been a coach for me for about a year now. And so like we have a different kind of street program where it's all about isometric holds and like building fascia and the strength between the, you know, the soft white tissue and stuff like that. So like it's much different than going out and deadlifting or squatting or benching like we used to do back in, you know, meathead days.
Totally.
Been there, done that. You know, and I got to say, doing all that kind of stuff back in the day definitely helped build the strength that I do have now to do what I do.
For sure. But if you look at the research, it's not the healthiest way to build the kind of strength that we're using in the mountains these days.
It's not.
Like
it's not.
Bench pressing ain't going to do anything for you when you're running up and down mountains. Yeah.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, cool, man. So how technical is this route? It's the first time you ever saw it. Did you get up there and were you surprised at sections or were you pretty prepared?
We kind of read through some descriptions, and if you ever read the WURL description, it talks about, oh yeah, this is not a hike. People have died on it. It's dangerous.
Yeah.
Etc. The whole shebang. I mean, it's class 4, like on the scramble stuff, it's class 3, class 4. I mean, there might be a couple class 5 moves depending on which way you go. Like we definitely did a couple low 5 sections just because, we'd never been up there. And so we were kind of just, all right, let's go with that, And so if you know it, I'm pretty sure you could probably keep it all class 4 or lower for the most part. A couple of the cruxes people talk about is like the Monte Cristo climb. Didn't seem to have any troubles there. I think they class it as 5. I could be completely wrong, but I thought it was super simple, like low 4 chimney climb. And then people talk about the Devil's Castle Traverse, pretty straightforward stuff. We never really had any problem with the route finding. So like we did Cottonwood Traverse starting at midnight. We went through all the way to Monte right around sunrise. And, there's a lot of scrambling between that section. It was just another day on the mountains for us. We felt like, some people were like, oh, y'all are going to go do this and they've never been on any of the technical sections. And we're like, yeah, probably. And so there's a few people that didn't really understand it, but it's like if you live and breathe mountains and you're running around mountains all the time, it's just another day. I feel like it's definitely more technical than just going and running mountains, though. It's hands-on stuff,
Yeah, you're doing some scrambling at night, I imagine, which can be a little sketchy and probably a ton of exposure all over the place too. So for the faint at heart,
you slip up, you're definitely gonna get hurt, if
for
not,
sure,
worse. But the holds and stuff and like the route is it's incredible. I mean, it's so awesome. But yeah, people have died, people have fallen, gotten hurt, search and rescue, the whole thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, same with like, I live pretty close to Long's Peak. I go up and down that thing and I feel completely safe. But if you read the reports, there's people that die out there every single year.
Yeah.
But, I running up and down that thing with no shirt and a pair of running shoes, and it feels pretty safe to me. But you guys were out there with no rope and just running shoes. Is that what I'm hearing? Or were you wearing approach shoes at certain sections?
No, just running shoes. I wore the same shoes the whole way through.
Okay.
I wish I would have changed shoes halfway through, but didn't have another pair of the same ones to change into at the time.
What do you wear?
I was wearing the Solomon Cross 2.
Okay.
It's kind of got that built-in gaiter on it and some solid lugs on the bottom. Works really well with my feet, and I love the shoe. Except I do have to modify it for my foot because I have a wider foot, and so like the top section above the toe, it doesn't allow my big toe to like do its thing. So I got to cut out like a piece of the plastic where it holds the lace in, which doesn't affect me. But like I didn't learn that until after the first WURL. We got done with the first WURL. I'm like, man, I can hardly walk. My left big toe is so jacked. And then I pulled out a knife and cut it, and my foot was good the rest of the time.
Really?
Wasn't limping, wasn't hurting, just cruising again.
Okay. And what are the bottoms of those shoes like? They must be decent for scrambling if you're confident to wear those.
They're decent enough. They've got like, I don't know the size, maybe a 1/2 inch lugs all the way through them. Kind of like the Speed Cross in a sense.
Is it pretty sticky though?
They're pretty sticky.
Yeah.
They're sticky enough.
Yeah,
I think from what I'm learning more from Z, like my coach, is having flat bottoms with like stickier. He sends his shoes in and gets them resold by a company. I forget the exact company's name and like what the sole is. He sent all the information to me, but it's like specific for scrambling and, being on rocks. Yep. Much better than the stuff I'm using right now. So I might do that for a pair of shoes or two here in the near future.
Yeah.
But they worked fine. I mean, I didn't have any problems.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. Nice. So, okay. So this was all planned sort of last minute. At what point did you meet Jason Hardrath? Was it like literally right before this thing started, or what was that like?
We met 2 days before the event, or like our adventure, I guess 2.5 days, we both drove into Salt Lake Thursday night, met around like 11 p.m. I had a hotel room. We hung out in there. He slept there on the couch bed, and we chatted for like 3 or 4 hours until like 2 or 3 in the morning, just about all the good stuff, learned a lot from that guy. He's super wise, and he's a great, mentor in a sense, and the way he can speak to athletes that kind of are still trying to learn or figure out what their path is in a sense. He's really good at opening up those thoughts and unjumbling some of those thoughts. And so we had some great conversation. And then, next day we woke up and it was kind of game on. We were trying to figure out what was going on. That was Saturday. So we called for my buddy Joe, and we put together a support crew within like 24 hours, full blown. We put a few posts on social media, like stories and stuff. And the amount of people that came out to support was just incredible. I mean, we were able to put together probably one of the biggest support crews a WURL person's ever had within 24 hours. I mean, it was ridiculous.
Wow.
It was awesome.
Why did you decide supported rather than self-supported or unsupported?
Mainly unsupported would have been ridiculous, first off, because there's no water on the ridges.
Oh.
And then having to carry enough food for 3 days on the ridges, it would have just been a completely different game, which, we talked about after the fact that we know how we would do it if we were going to do it that way. Yeah. But self-supported, we thought about it. We figured we only had 2 days before the weather window opened up for us and gave us like a 2.5 day weather window. And so it wasn't really enough time for us to go hiking all of our stuff ourselves. And we were really banking on, having pacers, but also no one's ever done a double whirl. So we didn't really care about the whole support thing. We were like, man, let's just do it. Let's see what we can put together and who wants to come help and just go out and do it.
Hell yeah.
So the supported way, was awesome. It was a great, training ground, learning ground for me to go and test out all these different things when it comes to nutrition, pace, speed, and just pushing myself mentally and physically with the support. I learned a lot.
Yeah, 100%. No, it totally makes sense. There's not many places to get water up there though.
There's no water until you get to the Snowbird Tram,
which is at what point?
If you're starting like the way most people do, you go clockwise, so that's like 18 miles in, maybe.
Okay,
something like that.
Sure.
It's like 2/3 of the way.
Okay.
Ish.
Yeah.
And then it's like, if you get water out of the tram building, is that really unsupported?
Sure.
Because you're using, a building. Yeah. So there's people have different ideas about it. Like Kelly, she just did an unsupported. Kelly Halpin, she just did unsupported WURL 2 months ago or something like that, and she did it in like 27 hours. Used snow that was still up on the ridge. And that was the way she was able to get water sources. She avoided the whole Snowbird Tram building and, went legit unsupported. So pretty cool.
Yeah, totally cool. But yeah, that paints a picture as to why you guys chose supported. And it sounds like you guys had a great crew anyways, man. Like, why not share this with a bunch of folks? If people want to come out and help you, let's make this a party.
Yeah. It was pretty much a party, dude. Just a 67-hour party. Who wants to come join and be a part of some suffering? And met a lot of great people. Most of the people that came out and helped, we've never met before ever. They're all brand new people.
Really?
Which was super sick.
Were they familiar with the route, or did they know who you guys were, or how did it all work out?
So Joe is the founder of Outdoor Nom, who's my new nutrition sponsor, and he's been a good friend for a handful of months now. He's done a supported mission on the WURL for somebody else before. And so we kind of made him crew chief and was like, all right, dude, this is what we're going to do. Can you help out? And he was super stoked. And so he dropped all plans and kind of just came out and helped. And we all did our part to find people that wanted to be a part of it. And so there was 2 or 3 people that I kind of knew beforehand that came out and did, dropped some caches for us on Cardiff Pass, Catherine Pass, and up at Snowbird, which those guys helped out so much bringing our gear up and stuff. But then whenever we got to Pfeifferhorn Saddle, there was 3 new faces, Anna, Mitch, and Grant. Anna ended up actually pacing us through the night for a lot longer than she signed up for. It ended up being a 15-hour night for her. Whoa. And we're planning on 8. So that was really interesting. And she only knew us through socials. Like, yeah, she's followed Jason a while, so she knows like what he does and stuff like that. I don't think she knew who I was at the time. And so like, we just kind of connected, and yeah, we had great conversations. She loves the mountains and she's done the world before. Okay. So she knew where we were going for the most part. And yeah, really helped just keep the vibes high and guide us through the night. And then she went to work the next morning about 30 minutes after hitting the trailhead.
I love it. Sounds like a badass.
Yeah, she's a badass.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And so Jason was with you the first half, and you had a pacer for part of that. Yeah. And then you turned around and you did it all. You did the whole thing again by yourself, right?
Well, I had pacers.
You had pacers the whole time,
but I didn't have my original teammate. So it was just different. You know, we got down, we were coming down Bell's Canyon, the sun's already up, and I'm like, shit, man, like this is taking way longer than I thought it was going to take. And I'm not saying this out loud. We all know this. Like, we don't have to say it. We already know this. And so we get to Bell's Trail, and I just run down. I'm like, yo, guys, I'm going to go ahead and head down so I can like lay down for an extra hour before we send it backwards, and I'll catch y'all whenever y'all get down. And so I kind of jogged it down. By that time, my body was actually kind of beat. My lower back was really hurting. Weird. There was just a few like small pains. And then once I got down, I laid down for like an hour and got back up, and Jason was just showing up, and he was like, yeah, man, you know, I had some time to think about it, but I think it's best if you go by yourself to do this, to keep the dream alive, for our team. Because there's like the way we were moving, there probably wasn't a chance we'd beat the Storms the next day, which were going to happen either way. And so, you know, when I got down my first whirl, I was kind of in a dark spot in the sense of, I don't think this is going to happen, because my mindset was team. We're doing this as a team. It was never like, I'm going to have to go by myself. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, I kind of had, you know, we had 3 friends down at the trailhead, Joe included. And I was just telling them like, yeah, man, I just don't think this is going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't see it happening, pretty much, long story short, in the nicest way possible, you know? And so once Jason told me that, it just like completely switched, like a switch in my head. I was like, oh no shit, this dude's going to let me just go out and try to do this by myself now. And it was kind of nerve wracking, but it also like I said, a mental switch just flipped, and physically too. I felt like I hadn't even done a whirl. I started walking around. There were no problems. I felt completely fine, 100% again. Wow. You know, and so it was mind boggling to like experience that, but also the fact that I'm about to go out alone. And so it was kind of scary in a sense, because there was a couple sections that we just did in the night that I wasn't really fond of. And sure enough, we found easier passage on the way down. But, you know, I reached out to a couple people about pacing last minute. I'm talking like they had an hour to come to where I'm at so we could go up together. And Brian, the first guy I reached out to, was like, yeah, man, well, I just did the Cottonwood Traverse yesterday, so I don't think I'm gonna be able to make it, but let me ask around for you. I was like, oh shit, I'm not gonna get anybody to come with me. I'm going by myself. So I'm gonna go lay down. I'm gonna get mentally right to go do this by myself. And I wake up like 30 minutes later, and by wake up, I mean just like sit up. 30 minutes later, and Brian texted me and said, hey man, I'm actually on the way. I got all my stuff packed. I'll see you in 35 or something like that. And I was super stoked. I was like, I've never met this guy, first off. Okay. Never really seen what he does. I know he's done the world once, and he's training for the world again right now. But once he told me he was on the way, I was like, sick. I mean, boom. I got nothing else to do today, so let's do it again. You know? And so I spent the next 30 minutes, 35 minutes just getting all my stuff together and waiting on him.
Nice. Well, that's a testament to your physical fitness as well as your mental fitness as well, because I mean, you know, if Jason's dropping, that's your chance to drop if you wanted to, you know, or if things weren't going good mentally for you, like, oh, sorry, yeah, I feel you, dude. Storm's coming in. We're going to be a team. I say we just call it, and we'll come back and try it in a few weeks. But you just got fired up. So, I mean,
I got fired up, dude.
That's impressive. That's
super
impressive.
Stoked.
Yeah.
You know, like one of the main things Jason talked about the first night we met was like the hero's journey and going and slaying the dragon so you can bring the gold back to the village and share these stories with people and hopefully inspire deeper. And like one of the things he said right before I went to go lay down was go slay the dragon. And it just like clicked. I'm like, you're right. I got to go slay the dragon,
Yeah.
That's what I got to go do.
Nice.
And so I was going to do it whether Brian would have showed up or not.
Okay.
And so, yeah, that was kind of how that went. Sorry, dude. Someone just called me on my phone.
Oh, that's right.
This guy's actually on the Cottonwood Traverse right now. So let me text him and tell him that I'm on a podcast real quick.
Okay. Unless you can bring him on the podcast. No,
that would be epic. He did. Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm back.
All right, sweet. Well, no, dude, that's pretty awesome. And so you're texting your buddies on the fly with 30 minutes to go. Like, can you come out and pace me? I'm on my own. I'm going back. I'm going to do this thing a second time. That's nuts.
Yeah. We were sitting there and I was getting fired up. I'm super hype. And I'm like, yeah, man, I mean, I've literally got nothing else to do today. So yeah, I guess I'll do it again.
See, that's the best way to look at it is I got nothing else on the calendar. And we were just at the Leadville 100 a couple weeks ago. And yeah, we were talking to some folks that were talking about dropping out at like 50, 60 miles. I'm like, you have nothing else on the calendar because you were planning on doing this and you were planning on finishing. Like, why would you stop? I mean, even if you get timed out, you might as well go as far as you can because this is what you were planning on doing. And I always say that you got nothing else on the calendar, dude. Like you're off work. You're good to go.
Yeah, pretty much.
A good way to look at it. So
kind of how that goes.
So I imagine that had to have been sort of a shift for you from going with Jason to turn around and doing it by yourself. I mean, with Pacers, it had to have been, what was that like? Did you immediately just start cruising really fast or did you have to get your head back in the game or what was it like?
Immediately started cruising, man. Just kind of started walking up and like a few hundred yards in, I was like, realized, oh, I forgot this and this. Hey, man, do you mind going down and grabbing this for me? Because I was moving so fast to get ready for the next WURL that I forgot a couple key things, like the charger to my Garmin inReach that was tracking me the whole time. Yep. And so Brian ran down, met me back up, 15 minutes later or whatever. Okay. But no, yeah, man, I was back to cruise control. We started right around like 10 a.m. It was kind of starting to get warm out, and we got up bells a little bit, and I laid down in the river to cool off and just kind of get wet so the breeze would smack me so I wouldn't be hot as shit the whole time. Which once I dried up, it was hot as shit the whole time. But yeah, man, I mean, kept the same pace. I ended up doing it again in 32 hours with my naps and all that kind of stuff. So pretty much kept the same pace, cruise control, just doing the same thing. Never had any bodily issues besides, like I said, my feet about halfway through the second one started to not be very fun, but
sure. Yeah.
That's part of it.
Well, congrats, dude. It sounds like a epic adventure. What are like a couple of the takeaway highs and lows? Like when you look back on this, like what's the highest moment and what's the lowest moment, if you had any?
The highest moment was probably, man, the high and the low might be the same point, honestly. The turnaround spot, like the low was me coming into that first WURL finish thinking like there's no way this is going to happen. I just, with the way we're moving, there's just no way.
Yeah.
But then once Jason told me to go, that might have been another really high point for me because it like revamped the dream. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. Let's do it again, Nice. And I was super stoked to be able to go do it again. Like I said, my mindset was team, Yep. I'm not going to put it in his head that, hey, man, I need to go by myself. He figured that out and told me that, which was super cool. And, I think one of the high points was, being by myself on that second WURL. Yes, I had pacers, but like we were kind of going into it in a way that because Jason's been around this block, many times before, the Sufferfest long days, big adventures, grand adventures, and so like the mindset was like, he's going to teach me all these things and, I'm going to learn how to like really dig deep with him on the second lap. And I got to do that by myself in a sense, He did come back in about 24 hours later and, led me through the final push of the Cottonwood Traverse, which was awesome. I mean, the guy came in, looked like he was 100% fresh when he wasn't. But, the fact that he wanted to come help his homie out that was doing this still, and it was part of his dream, was super cool. So that was a really awesome high moment right at Cardiff Pass when we finally connected again, like 24 hours later. The stoke was super high. I came in with great spirits. He had great spirits. I'm like, oh, look at this guy. He's about to look. You know what happened to him? He's about to come back out. Like we were super stoked. And so like he pulled me through that last section. Like we moved pretty quick because we had storms to beat. Yeah. And sure enough, as soon as we got to the trailhead on the finish of the second, whirl, downpour, and then lightning was striking all the ridges around us. And so it was like about as perfect timing as it could get, which was so crazy.
Wow.
But yeah, there's, the low points. There wasn't a lot of low points really, besides, that getting down the first whirl. The third night, my headlamp died about 2 hours in because no one charged it for me. And I gave them shit for it. But me and this dude that I've never met before, Dub Price, we're sharing one headlamp going from Pfeiffer Horn to wherever the hell we got to go until we finally met somebody else. And there's like some sketchy ridge that, I'm 52 hours in. We have one headlamp. I'm kind of like having to, walk him through how to get down the way I went up, just because that's the way I went up. So I wanted to go down the same way, And so it was kind of sketchy. And that was kind of a low point. It definitely slowed us down quite a bit. But, other than that, the low points weren't big. And when they did come, they were really short because I knew what I wanted to do, where I wanted to be. And I was really stoked to be where I was,
For sure.
Really enjoyed the whole process, just the entire thing.
Yeah. Well, talking to you, you sort of exude this confidence. Was there ever a point when, the halfway point, it sounds like you were thinking this might not happen. When you were headed back, was there any time you thought this might not actually happen? Or were you pretty confident and moving pretty well the whole time?
Yeah, as soon as we started going back up, I knew it was going to happen.
It was
As soon as I left the trailhead, I knew there was pretty much no option for me mentally to obviously if I broke my leg, that'd be a different story or something else would happen. But yeah, mentally, I was pretty much all there, even through the finish. Like I started getting kind of delirious at the end, but like I knew the whole time that this was happening and I'm going to be the guy that does the first one. And I don't care how slow it is or how fast it is, but I'm going to finish this. And that's what's going to happen, So was really confident the entire time, 3 full nights, 3 sunrises, 3 sunsets, pretty much, the whole thing. It was great, and it was awesome sharing that experience with the people that came out on the trail.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Having them with you is huge. How did you deal with sleep deprivation?
Yeah, man. So this was a completely new thing for me. I've never pushed past probably 24 hours before ever. And here I am like pushing past 24 hours thinking, man, this is the longest I've been awake before ever. And so Jason starts throwing out like, he does, depending on the mission, he'll do about a 27-minute nap or so, that or an hour and a half nap, depending on like how big the mission is. And so if you keep it below 27, you don't fall into a sleep cycle. And you just let your mind flow backwards. And so we ended up doing 7-minute naps instead, a little bit shorter, just because we wanted to keep moving. And so it's just like the act of laying down, closing your eyes, and letting your mind wander about everything other than scrambling and walking. Once you start to get wobbly, it allows you to bring your mind back into focus. So when you wake back up, you're like, yeah, you're not physically resting, but you're resting your mind enough to where it can refocus on what's going on, which was brand new to me. And it was awesome. So we did 2 of those on our second night together, right before we finished the first whirl. And then I used that technique maybe 5 times on the second whirl, because I would, pretty much right before like a cruxy scramble or something where you really want to be dialed. And I already knew I was kind of getting wobbly, I was kind of tired and I didn't want to, you don't want to mess up here. I would lay down for 7 minutes, have my pacer throw on a 7-minute timer, and then they just wake me up and let's keep going, and they helped every time. I don't think there was a single 7-minute nap that didn't refocus me.
Wow.
It was pretty incredible, like tool to add to the toolbox, I think I would have never, like I've heard like Courtney Dahlwater, I don't know how to pronounce her last
Walter,
name.
yeah.
The Walter, she's talked about her short naps, her 6-minute naps, 7-minute naps, whatever it may be. And I was like, I don't know about all that. So Jason's like, yeah, well, that's what we're doing. I'm like, okay, I'm here to learn. So did it and it worked and it was awesome. There was like maybe one time I did a 15-minute nap, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it was the same thing. Like I woke up, should have just done a 7-minute because I didn't wake up feeling any different.
Sure. Yeah.
You know?
Is there a point in the second half towards the end? Like, I don't know, I'm just picking a number, like the last 5 miles where the stoke started getting higher and you started moving faster, or were you just pretty much destroyed at that point?
Yes and no. So we get to the top of Twin Peaks, which is the final set of peaks before going down Ferguson Canyon. And even after that, you still got some scrambling to do to get down into the canyon. And we are all pretty much out of liquids. We had like 2 sips left apiece, just enough to keep our tongue wet. Yeah. And it was me, Jason, Eli. Eli's the guy that started Gnarly Nutrition. He's been a friend for about a year now. And so he came out and joined us for the last stretch as well. He pretty much let me drink all of his liquids, eat all of his foods. The dude had nothing. I mean, he gave me the shirt off his back at one point because I was like dying from the heat. And we're headed down this gully that we thought we'd shortcut. We're like, oh yeah, let's just shortcut this whole thing and go down this gully. And sure enough, it ended up probably adding at least an hour to our adventure. It was super loose gully, you know, and we had 3 of us. We didn't want to knock rocks on each other. And at the very bottom, there's like a 15 foot, maybe 15 foot, probably like 10 foot down climb section that if you fall, you're probably going to break an ankle or a leg. It's like class 5 down climb for sure. And I was gripped. I was like 63 hours awake. Like, man, the shortcut, this is where it all happens right here, huh? This is where I'm going to break my leg at the very end. And so we get down and find Jason talks us how to get down with the handholds and the footholds and that whole thing. But at that time, we're all beat. You know, we're just kind of feeding off each other's energy. We've been in the sun for like 8 hours together with hardly any liquids and water at this point. There's no water around for the next 2 or 3 miles. And we're just like bullshitting, you know, just trying to keep spirits high. It's very obvious that we're all having not a very great time. Yeah. And then, yeah, we finally get to the stream, which felt like it took forever to get to. The stream's like maybe a mile and a half or 2 before the trailhead. And I just laid down in it and started chugging, you know, water. Probably chugged too much, but it didn't matter. I mean, we're almost finished anyways. Yep. And I was like, yeah, man, if y'all weren't here, I'd probably just lay in the stream for like another hour. Even right. The trailhead's like a mile away. And so we were all finally got up. Everybody was, you know, rehydrated a little bit. And we started running down. Like a half mile later, we had like 5 homies, you know, there ready to run down the last mile with us. And that was, the stoke was high. We ran down the last 2 miles. I think I ran like a 9-minute mile in the last mile or something like that. You know, we were cruise controlling. Mind and body were definitely shutting down. And Jason just kept reassuring me this is what's supposed to happen close to the end. Like your mind plays tricks on you. My hands went numb. Heart felt weird. All these things that were probably actually happening, but nothing that was like, you know, going to kill me. Sure. And so we just kept cruising. The stoke was high. We had some people out there with cameras, you know, doing their thing. And we cruised the last mile down. And once we got down, like I said, downpour rain and lightning striking ridges. Wow. Kind of a cool congratulations. And there's probably 15 friends down there waiting, you know, all with beers and milkshakes and the whole thing. I didn't drink beer, but I did have a milkshake.
Oh yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. How'd you celebrate? But it sounded like you had a bunch of friends down there, some good refreshments. And then did you grab a meal? Did you go straight to bed? What was up afterwards? Yeah. So the rain started pouring, and by this time my body was like already shutting down. So I hopped in the truck while everybody else stood outside and talked. And I was just getting really cold really fast. Sure, yeah. So I sat in the truck and rolled down the window and was like, thanks guys. And like, you know, talked a little bit, but my dad actually called me when we were driving to a little chicken place to go get some food. And I was like, hey man, I'm just gonna let you know, I don't think I can have a real conversation right now. I can hardly even think. And he's like, oh, I just wanted to congratulate you. And I was like, cool, man, I'll call you tomorrow or something. And probably didn't make any sense on the phone and did it for the rest of the night. But yeah, we ended up going to a little spot to grab a couple chicken sandwiches and some fries and stuff real fast, a couple sodas, super simple stuff that was just on the way to the Joe's house that we were staying at. And yeah, did that, got back, chilled for like 20 minutes. And I was like, all right, guys, I think I got to go. Yeah. And I laid down and I tried to scroll on my phone for a couple minutes and it just didn't happen. I just passed out. Yep. Yeah. Pretty much. Wow. Well, what an epic journey, man. What an awesome adventure. Hats off. It sounds fantastic.
Yeah, man, it was epic.
It sounds like it. It sounds like it. Do you have anything else on the calendar this year, or was that it? Or
no, yeah, I got a few things. So I'm going to go back to the Mosquito 10 mile here soon. Now that the monsoon season is finally clearing up over in Breckenridge, I'm going to go back and get that tackled. I think I've learned a lot and put a lot of pieces together to where I can make this much smoother, at least. I mean, I don't think it's going to be easier, but it's going to be smoother. And it will be easier because I'll actually eat food this time instead of not eat food for 16 hours. So
that usually doesn't work out.
Doesn't work out too well usually. So I got that on the books, and then I've got a few other smaller FKTs that I want to go after in Colorado. And besides that, I'm kind of leaning towards getting ready for my project next year. And so for the most of September and October, instead of doing Max Vert October again, I'm going to do it. But instead of going for Max Vert, I'm going to go tag as many peaks as I can and make up these big link ups. And so as a showcase to present to people and sponsors that might want to fund my next year project, I'm shooting to do all the 13ers and 14ers in a single year. And that's like, if you count the unranked ones, 825 peaks.
In Colorado.
Yeah.
Dang.
So I haven't decided if I'm doing the unranked peak list yet or the ranked peak list, which I think the ranked ones are still, it's like 697.
Yeah.
A lot of peaks.
Wow.
But like Travis and Nathan and Jason kind of all inspired this. They didn't, make it up for me, but watching them do their massive peak lists, I was like, that's what I've been trying to figure out what the big project I want to do is. I'm like, that's the one. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it in Colorado. I'm going to do all the peaks above 13K. And I've already decided this. It's going to be a thing. And so, yeah, for the next couple months, I'm just going to go out, tag a bunch of mountains, link them up, and kind of just use it as a showcase, 6-week showcase of how I'll go about next year's project.
Okay.
Yeah, man.
Wow.
Pretty big.
It sounds epic. Supported, I'm guessing. I mean, I've heard
fully supported.
Okay. I've heard of crazy people doing this stuff self-powered and on a bike and
yeah. It'll be fully supported. Yeah. It's like, I'll do days where it's unsupported and I'll be on myself for days at a time. But the idea is to create these very unique link ups to whether I'm tagging 5 peaks or 30 peaks in a single push, whether it's 1 day or 5 days in a single push, and then just getting picked up and dropped off to the next trailhead and doing it again and again and again and again until it's finished. And that's kind of the idea behind it, doing these link ups that no one's done or not a lot of people have done,
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you talked to Andrew Hamilton?
No, I need to reach out and see what he thinks about it. I'm sure he's got some good beta I could get on it.
Oh, big time.
He'd be stoked to hear about it.
I'm sure he would. He'd be very helpful too. He's a super nice guy. I've had him on the show a few times.
Yeah.
Well, dude, that's
his lady.
What's it? Yeah. She just set the 24-hour record.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just had her on as well. Andrea Sansone.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's definitely on the list one of these days. I think I figured out how to add one more peak, but I'm not going to tell anybody.
Good. Well, keep it secret. So that would be 14 or 13.
I think she did 12.
She did 12. So you would do 13.
I think so. I don't want to say it wrong, but I think it was 12.
I think you're right. I know. I was talking to them and they're like, I think there's a way to squeak in one more. And they gave me a couple of ideas and it sounds possible, but
it's the ideas I would tell you. You've already heard the ideas.
Probably. Yeah.
I'm going to keep them to myself.
Totally. Go out there and get it, man.
That might be like a next year thing or the year after. I don't know. We'll see if someone else can do it before I get around to it, but it's on the list.
I doubt it. Nobody's going for that. That's once a year somebody comes along and tries that. There's not that many crazies out there.
Exactly. And then you got the guy that just did the self-supported record. I don't know if you saw that.
I did.
Self-supported.
And he wasn't from Colorado.
Minnesota.
Yeah. That's nuts.
I had a bunch of people send me his record. I'm like, trust me, I've seen it. It's on the list.
Well, speaking of list, since you did this 67-hour push and you're a Colorado guy, I've got to ask if Nolans piques your interest.
They are. It's been on the list for 3 years now. That's been high on the list. And then Jason presented the double WURL to me, and I was like, let's do this instead. Because I was going to go for Nolans this year. I don't think I'm doing it this year again. Like I said last year, I don't think it's going to happen this year. It's on the list, though. It's definitely high up there. It could be a potential mini project inside of my next year's project. There's going to be a lot of that. So that's one of the potentials. but it's definitely up there, and I really want to do that. You know, after I did the double whirl, I don't think, you know, Nolan's terrain is much simpler when it comes to technicality.
Really?
Yeah, it's bigger climbs. Yeah, there's not really a lot of scrambling on Nolans. It's a lot of straight down a gully or
scree fields.
A lot of trail too. There's a lot of trail. Yeah, scree fields, talus, and most of the scree fields and talus are loose enough where you can pretty much just bomb down it really fast.
Yeah.
There's a couple sections that are like class 3, maybe class 4, but nothing to the extent of the whirl.
Okay.
So I think it's a completely different adventure, and I would be stoked to give it a go. I will give it a go, but just don't know when.
For sure. Yeah. Same here. It's been on my list for years. I've made a couple of half-hearted attempts and a couple of serious attempts, and I'll get after it one of these years. But it's funny how that would probably just be one of my big ones. And you're like, yeah, that'd be like a mini one for me.
Jason was like, well, what if we did it out and back on Holy Nolans?
Oh,
and
I was like, come on.
Like, yo, man.
Oh, dude. That would be insane. That'd be
ridiculous, huh?
I know. When Andrew and his partner Andrea did Holy Nolans, it sounded like they decided on Holy Cross like pretty much last minute. They did all of Nolans, made it to Massive, and they're like, well, it's only 30 miles away or whatever, 20 miles away. And then they just decided to go for it. Might as well. Yeah.
What else are we going to do?
Oh my God. But a double of that's, I don't even want to think about that.
I just don't know how fun that sounds to me.
No.
You know, it's like the whirl is super fun because it's hands-on, like we're scrambling and having a good time. Like, I don't know.
At a certain point,
beast.
You're right. I don't think it'd be fun anymore. I know I had a buddy who was talking about doing a double Nolans at one point, and I'm just like, I don't know. Good luck. I don't know. It sounds pretty insane.
You fucking do it, man. You're the guy for sure.
For sure. Yeah. Let me know how it goes. I'm not going to be with you.
For sure.
Cool, man. Well, yeah, congrats on the double whirl. That's freaking insane. And dude, I'll definitely be keeping an eye on you because I want to see what's going on the rest of the year and next year, especially. I'm pretty interested. For sure. And I'd love to dive in and be part of that crew or part of the Pacers, especially when you're up in this area, man. I'd love to dive in. So keep me posted.
Definitely love to have you out there.
Definitely. All right. Well, keep me posted, man. I'd love to make that happen. And
let's do it.
But yeah, congrats, dude. What an epic journey. And it sounds like this is just like a warm up for the other stuff that's coming up.
There's more to come. It's the beginning.
Yeah.
Definitely the beginning. Cool. Super stoked on it. Thanks again, man. It was great chatting with you, Adam. Really enjoyed it just like last time, you know. So
for sure. Anytime,
keep the relationship going.
Absolutely. 100%. Great talking to you, dude. All right, man. Have a great day. We'll see you.
You as well, brother.
Thanks, brother. See ya.
Bye.